Whether it's the regular season or the off-season, we have you covered as we give you the best Tennessee Titans and NFL news and insight that a fan could ask for. You're watching the Titan Upload Network.
Watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. We're mere days away from rookie minicamp to be getting started. It is exciting to finally get out of the offseason drag and getting back to meat and potatoes football. You can't ask for more. But of course, we got a loaded show with what we have so much to talk about, and I can't even just sit down because I'm so excited. It's Monday. The energy's fresh. Everything's fresh. Of course, I can't do it without the help, and most importantly, without the good dear friendship of my companion and partner in crime, Tyler Staggs. Tyler, as always, we've reached Monday, and I wish you the happiest of ones.
Yes, the highlight of Mondays, let's be honest. I don't like getting up and going to work on Monday. I like when we get to Monday afternoon, and I get to come here and talk Titans football with you and, of course, all of the guests that we bring on throughout each and every week. Pretty much. So happy Monday to you as well, buddy. How you doing?
I can't complain, man. You know, especially since we are mere days away from camp getting started for these rookies, and eventually the veterans will be joining them the following week. So there's going to be a lot to talk about, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and that's a good thing. We got through the series quarterback. It kind of gave us a little bit of just a way to wet our beaks and just get some excitement going. But speaking of excitement, a show this big, you've got to have just the cream of the crop guests to join you and basically talk Titans football, especially we're so close to being right at that point where rookies are going to be coming in and we need some expertise right there. So joining us tonight is a dear friend of the show, and he is definitely rising up the ranks, and we are not surprised because we knew that he was going to be a shooting star at the highest caliber. And of course, he is now working with Titans on SI, and we're very excited to see him put his work in. Joining us tonight is our good friend, SHARM Sports. SHARM, it has been too long, and I apologize for that, but we are super thrilled to have you on the show tonight.
How we doing, boys? Football is almost here. It's almost over.
I mean, Tyler and I know what it's like to get through these segments, especially when we're in the drag months of just there's nothing interesting NFL wise. Everybody's on vacation. It's puff piece after puff piece after puff piece. You don't want that. You want something that's more substantial, meat and potatoes football. And that's what we're here about. We're here going to be talking about that tonight. And of course, before we get started, we definitely like just getting a little bit of just one-on-one talk, especially with things going on inside the NFL. And there's been some interesting talking points right there. So Sharma, I'm going to start with you. Obviously, the FIFA World Cup, a fairly big success, and I think did very well ratings-wise, and we'll find out soon how that plays out. But the biggest talking point, especially throughout NFL circles, are grass fields. And I think that's a great point to start here. Players are basically starting a movement online saying, we're worth it. And I can easily recognize and just accompany that sentiment because with the injuries that have mounted, with all the teams that have switched to turf and just the whole debate on that, let's start with that. Understandably, owners are trying to find ways to shave a little bit of money to try and save just on maintenance, on upkeep, especially in areas where, well, let's be honest, some places don't do well with turf. What is your take on it so far with this movement? I mean, are you anti-turf? Are you anti-grass? Let's get your take.
Yeah, I mean, I see it from the player's perspective. Research has shown that there's less injuries on grass fields. Playing on a grass field, I played football for 3 years. Playing on a grass field is way better than playing on a turf field, especially when the weather is hot. So I understand it from the players' perspective, but also from the owners, like turf is cheaper. Having to keep the grass like well kept throughout the year is takes a lot of money. So I understand it from the owners and the players' perspective. I just think this is an issue that's never going to get fully fixed. I just don't think it's possible.
And Tyler, I mean, it's probably going to drag out, especially into the new collective bargaining agreement. And I think that's going to be a big talking point, especially when teams start bringing that up and bring it to the table. So I would expect, especially from an owner standpoint, that they're going to do their homework. They're going to put some math together and some numbers and basically present it, especially to the NFLPA, and try and just counter that measure, especially with costs. But I would also think from a business standpoint, you kind of have to offer something as well if they're still interested in continuing to push for grass. So if you're an NFL owner, I mean, would it be out of the question to ask the players to potentially like take a cut somewhere in order to make this transpire?
Here's I, I could see the owners coming and doing that, but for me, I guess here's the biggest thing is the players can kind of come back at them and be like, look, you are wanting to cut the cost down, go with the turf, and just say some of the top guys in the NFL that are making, top of the line contracts, they can be like, look, you can keep putting this turf out there, but if I get injured on it, you're paying me to sit on the couch now. Like, I'm not going to be out there on the field doing what you're paying me to do because I got hurt on this turf field. So it's kind of it's that back and forth argument there. Like, yeah, if I could see the owner saying, okay, if y'all want grass, coming back and being like, hey, what about y'all, coming down on the money? So, but, players, they're not going to do that because they're the ones out there on the field putting their body on the line week in and week out. And, it really, they can put it back on the owners because they can be like, look, you can cut costs, go with the turf. Yes, it's easier to manage than the grass, but you potentially lose out on your high contract players if they get hurt on the turf versus on the grass, you potentially have us all year long.
I mean, solid points, but let me make a counter argument for both participational arguments' sake. So let's say with the grass field, obviously old FedEx Field has had a slew of massive injuries, and especially in the wintertime, it tends to just not be able to get put in the right par where a grass field needs to be set up. But I can also make the argument for a stadium like MetLife, which is constantly just terrorized players for at least the last part of maybe the last 6 years. So balancing those arguments where some people continue to like balance which is the greater of evils, I guess is the best way to put it. What do you think in terms, for the players to come to the negotiation table and basically say, we feel that the grass fields are more substantial for our long-term playing longevity. So, Sharm, let's start with you, and Tyler, get your final thought.
I mean, I said it was an unfixable problem. I think something extreme needs to happen for there to be any change, like a lockout where the players just like refuse to play, say, hey, we're not going to play unless you give us just pure grass fields. That's like the only way I see this getting fixed because, as you said, owners are going to always try to save money, always try to, get the cheapest way to get their product on the field. And turf fields are cheaper than grass fields. And unless the players take like an extreme measure, I just don't see how it is possible to make all 32 teams or however many stadiums there are, I think it's 30 or 29, make everything grass. I just don't think it's possible.
Tyler, your follow-up.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things. I mean, we've seen it. I feel like this has been a talking point more just more and more over the last couple of years or several years, however you want to put it. And it's a conversation every single year, basically. Like, because usually it seems like every year there's another team that's going to the turf, and that brings back up the conversation because obviously the players for that team aren't happy about it. And it seems like it's a problem that's probably never going to be fully resolved. I mean, from the player's standpoint, if they feel like it's going to add more to their longevity, to their career, the selling point that they can come to the owners with is, you know, and, specifically your top players on each team, they can come back to the owners and be like, look, you've seen how I've produced for you since I've been here. Now, would you like for, like, what I can do? You know what my skill set is. Yes, you can go out, maybe draft someone to try and replace me. As Titans fans, we know that doesn't always work out. So, when you have a talent that you know what they are, know what they can do, look, I can keep making your team this much better and doing this for your team if you go back to these grass fields for a longer period of time versus you taking 2, 3, 4 years off of my career from playing on this turf and potential injuries that come up.
Absolutely. And let me get to a little bit of the heart of the matter, especially from our standpoint. The Tennessee Titans are slated to open their new stadium in 2027, and obviously it's more likely going to be a turf field. Also knowing the fact that this is going to be the same stadium within 4 years that's going to host a Super Bowl. So I would countermeasure, especially with this fact. Yes, it's cheaper to maintain, especially in an indoor environment. But also I would say you could potentially put a grass field in there and it would survive, especially if you put in the right watering system and a translucent stadium, which brings in natural light. I think that's going to help it grow and continue to maintain it as well. And it's in an enclosed environment, so we don't have to worry about the elements like we've seen in the past, where in November and December, most of the field usually ends up drying up or dying at that point. And we've seen our fair share of that trouble. So, Sharm, I mean, wouldn't that be a solid argument, especially knowing that this team will be hosting one of the greatest events that Nashville might even have fathomed at this point? So, what would you say from that argument standpoint?
I mean, yeah, I get it because the Super Bowl being hosted in Nashville, I think one of the biggest opportunities for the city ever, you could say, and you can't really take the risk of that. So I understand that from that standpoint. That, as I said, grass is just so hard to keep like good and maintained throughout the year. So that is a very good argument for keeping turf. But I think the players don't see it that way, though. The players don't really think about the business side of it. They think about, hey, when I'm playing on turf, I don't like the feeling. I feel like I'm at risk of getting hurt versus playing on grass. And then the owners are like, well, you have to think about me business-wise. So it's just a battle between the players and the business side of things, and just don't know how it's going to get fixed.
And I mean, Tyler, the business aspect is FIFA went through all that trouble, and all these stadiums went through all that trouble to basically just kind of bend over and make them happy at this point. So it kind of feels like maybe the players have a slight edge in these discussion points, because it's kind of hard to say. It's like, well, if you're going to make an effort to go all out, especially for a tournament that's going to be here for maybe a month, I mean, don't we feel like that we should be just treated just as well, especially since we're your employers?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think right now the edge definitely has to go to the players. Like you said, these stadiums that the World Cup has been played in, they've bent over backwards to make arrangements, get these grass fields in there for these soccer players, and you, like you said, for like a month's time, month and a half, maybe, like however long it went on, like you were able to do it for that. And also right now I feel like all across the U.S., like you have the elements of, like, I know especially here, like in Tennessee, we've been getting a lot of rain, but I know like out in the Midwest, I know some of the World Cup games were played in Texas, and I saw where it was raining there. But guess what? Enclosed stadium, don't have to worry about the field, get the grass field getting messed up, all sloppy. You know, there's ways that, especially in the enclosed stadiums, they can make grass work.
I mean, regardless of how it's going to play out, I think it's going to be a major discussion point, especially when both sides hit the negotiating table. And I definitely am on the side of the players. I want them to feel like they're getting the best product to perform on, especially in terms of trying to help their team advance, especially not only in wins, but also in just the ability to have the highest performance surface that they deserve to be playing on. Look, I've played on both surfaces just like Sharm has. And I mean, there's preferences, especially in different times of the year. Sometimes in the wintertime, grass isn't the best thing to play on, especially when it's like 20 or 30 degrees out. It hits just like a concrete wall. And especially with turf, rug burn's a bitch. And I'm just telling you right now, I have had my fair share on my legs and my arms. So anybody that's ever played on a turf field, you know what I'm talking about. And back in my day, I can't believe I even said it. Back in my day, that was when it was still carpet. So it's come a long way from there, but still, I see guys with the same burns, so it's not much of an improvement.
Yeah, I'll say this. Michael, you know this, went up to the Titans practice facility several weeks ago for an event they were putting on. We got to go in the bubble. You know, they have the turf in there too. I got down on a knee to take a picture with my girls, and just having my knee on that ground for the limited amount of time that I did, I got up and I was like, golly, I could not imagine, you know, some of these diving catches and everything these guys, like, no, I could not imagine, you know, full speed diving and just sliding across this. Like, I'm good.
Speak for yourself, old man. I'm hitting the truck stick on you. But regardless, it's going to be interesting to see how this scenario plays out when they do hit the negotiating table. I'm citing that the NFL owners will kind of come to a conclusion that may be in their best interest to spend a little bit more money, but I expect them to cover that interest as well. I don't think anybody's really going to get what they want in terms of negotiations, but in terms of the product itself, if grass is the best way to go, then I feel that the owners might need to bite the bullet, but at the same time, the players might have to be willing to give up something in return. And it's basically just a 50-50 situation at that. Well, now that we got the grass out of the way, let's talk some real football. And apparently Cam Ward and co were down in Miami getting a little bit of work done. So what do you say we jump in the first segment and hit it from there? Starting out with segment one, joining us as always is Tyler Staggs and our special guest, SHARM Sports. I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour as well. Let's hit it with a kickoff.
And here's the kick.
So let's just be honest. For some people, summertime, it's about vacation, get in the sun, get to the beach, get a tan, have a few drinks. Understandable. But for Cam Ward, it was different. He didn't go to Miami just to have a good time. He went to Miami to put in work. And not only did he go, but apparently many teammates of his went as well, and they definitely put in some work. So, Sharm, I'll start with you. We've obviously seen the workout video that Cam Ward posted and the Tennessee Titans as well. What impressed you from just that whole scenario?
Yeah, I mean, Cam's leadership is number one. To get all these receivers at this time of year, when you said like everyone wants to take vacations, everyone wants to like take advantage of like the downtime that they have, because for NFL players, this is like the last like real like extended period of time that they're going to have off this year. So for Cam to get all these receivers, all these guys down in the same place working out together, I think it just shows his leadership, what the team already thinks of him as a leader. So I think that's the number one takeaway. Carnell Tate looks so explosive. I know it's just these videos of like him was just like running routes on air, but that guy looks like a wide receiver one, man. Whenever I see him work out, whenever I just see him do anything, I'm like, that is a wide receiver one. That's what a star receiver looks like in the NFL. So they're probably my two major takeaways. Cam Ward's leadership, and then Cardinal Tate, man, I'm just so excited to see him play.
And Tyler, I mean, you've seen the video as well. You understand the fact that these guys are putting in work. They're getting ready for Brian Dable's system. What stood out to you as these guys were getting their reps in? You know, who was really catching your eye in that video?
Man, yeah, it's, and I just want to echo right quick what Sherm said with like Cam's leadership as far as getting all these guys together down there. And I know there's going to be some people out there that just want to find something to hate on and be like, oh, well, these are just passes against air. These are just routes against air. No, these are teammates down there building that chemistry even more because they know, all right, we're going to run this route now. This is where, I'm expecting you to break, or how deep I'm expecting you to break. This is where I'm wanting to put the ball. And, going back and forth and just getting that chemistry down. As far as, who was impressing me. And, obviously we talk about Cam Ward. We talk about Carnell Tate. Wandale Robinson has been a big talking point. But I think guys that are not purposefully kind of getting overlooked, but just a little bit, are guys like Ellick and Chim. And, Chim, he's impressing me. And just overall, I mean, seeing all the work that all of these guys are putting in, but I'm going to go with Chim just to be a little bit different.
And I respect that. And I'm glad you brought up Ellick, because to me, Ellick Iamander, to me, has been my glow up of 2026. This dude came in after getting beaten around last year, and he decided, I'm not going to live through the Jordan rules. I'm going to be the exception to the rule. This man must have put on about 20 pounds of muscle. He is like shredded cheddar cheese, and it's terrifying for the fact if he can get to his potential in 2026 in this offense, that scares me, Tyler.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, like his transformation this year has been crazy. I mean, he was already, I'd say a bigger guy, but seeing the muscle mass that he has now, I'm like, good grief. Is this a wide receiver or a DN? Like, he's looking shredded. So I'm like you. I'm excited to see these guys see their roles in this offense because, last year they were thrown to the wolves and just kind of had to be, but that experience just helps them. And now, they're getting their bodies even more right heading into year two. Like you said, Alec basically saying like, hey, it's not going to be any of these Jordan rules where you can just push me around, beat me up. Like, no, I'm putting in the work and I'm going to do the bruising.
And Sharma, I got to be honest with you, looking a little bit ahead, especially with rookie camp coming up. You had an interview earlier with Tyron Montgomery, and the kid's awesome. He's humble. He just has so much good energy around him. I understand he's going to be one of your guys that you're going to be keeping an eye on in this camp. So you and I know what his work ethic is, seeing him up close and personal. But to you, what stands out the most about him that could potentially maybe get
so Tyron comes from a basketball background. Football was not his first sport. And, when I talked to him, he talked about how he wanted to be a basketball player. He wanted to pursue that. It just didn't work out. But you really see that in his play style. He's uber athletic. He can jump really high. And I think if he makes this roster, which I think there's a possibility he does, that's how good I think he is. At the least, he's going to be a practice squad guy. It's because of his special teams ability. He's already been working with Bones Fossil on special teams. Bones has been really impressed with him. And if he makes the roster, it'll be for that special teams purpose. But I really hope, and I really think that they're going to keep him around either way, either on the practice squad or, as I said, if he shocks the world and makes the roster. But Tyron's a great guy, basketball background, athletic, and I'm really excited to see him. in training camp.
And Tyler, I mean, with the tight end situation, obviously you're hoping Gunnar Helm's going to take that next step. But I feel like, especially with what we saw in the videos, Bellinger looks like he could potentially get some catches this year too.
Yeah, I think so. And, Bellinger was another one that from that video was impressing me a little bit. But, I'm like you. I expect Gunnar Helm to be that tight end one. But Daniel Bellinger has shown, especially in Brian Daboll's system, like he can go out there and make plays. He can make catches when you need him to. And I definitely think that, that was one reason, like, him coming here and, like, Daboll's going to have plans for him. He knows what Bellinger can do. And just overall, that tight end pairing together, I'm excited for. Like, I think they're going to make waves, and that's nothing to go against like last year with it being like Chig and Gunnar Helm. But, Chig was more of your just kind of an extra wide receiver, basically. But now you've got these two big tight ends in Helm and Bellinger, and it's like, all right, this is kind of what you expect your tight ends to look like.
All right. So we got that out of the way. So to finish this whole thing up, give me one rookie you expect not only is going to make some waves, but it's potentially going to really challenge a spot for this roster in 2026. And Sharm, we'll start with you and finish with Tyler.
I'm looking at Pat Coogan. I think Pat Coogan, I know Austin Slotman is like being penciled in as a starting center. I wouldn't count Pat Coogan out. I mean, we know what he did at Indiana. He was the anchor of that offensive line. They won the championship. And I think Pat Coogan could be the center of the future for the Titans. That's how high on him I am. We have to see how he does in training camp, obviously the preseason. Offensive linemen usually, what is it called? They come slower. It's different, their development. So we'll see how Pat Coogan does in camp in the preseason. But I really think that he could be the center of the future, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see him start a few games this year.
Michael, here's the thing. You know how I feel about Pat Coogan, and when you started asking the question, that's immediately where my mind went. I was like, yeah, Coogan, that's my pick. That's, that was one of the guys, and I can't remember. I think with him, I was maybe 10 picks off, Michael, from nailing it on the head.
10 picks away. You were that close
in our mock draft. So, I gotta echo off of Sharm there because Coogan was the first guy that popped in my mind.
All center love here. I love it. For me, I'm going to take a different direction. I'm going to go on the defense, and it's going to go with the one kid I think everybody's really itching to see, but it's not the one you're thinking of. Give me Bishop Fitzgerald. I don't know why, but his film just is so much fun to watch, and there's so much raw potential there. I just get the vibes of like Bayard Light. So I want to see what he's going to do in camp. Granted, I think he'll potentially make it on the practice squad first, but there's definitely a chance for him to get elevated, especially when the season gets up there and guys start getting into the dog days of the season. So you never know. But I'm going to ride out with my boy Bishop Fitzgerald. So I'm really excited to see what that kid can do. But hey, I'm anything where the Tennessee Titans are going to be productive in 2026 because let's face it, the last 2 years, there hasn't been much fun things to talk about, and we're hoping that trend moves forward in the right direction. All right, guys, let's take our first break of the show, and when we come back, there have been so many underrated Tennessee Titans throughout the tenure of their duration in the city of Nashville, and each of us have selected one representative to where we feel is the most underrated Tennessee Titan of all. I can't talk, but I'm going to get that out anyway. I nailed that. So we'll get our breath caught and be back in the next 30 seconds. If it'll play.
watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air. Live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Guys, it's a phenomenal show. The chat's blowing up, and you guys are blowing it up on Twitter as well. I mean, it is a solid show, and we can only be appreciative for the inclusion and grateful for our special guest, SHARM Sports. SHARM, we're very grateful to have you on tonight. And of course, got to ask you what's happening, what's in the works. What can you give us on the 411 of what's happening in your world?
Yeah, so just started with Titans on SI. Make sure you go check it out. Going to be writing with them all year long, so it's going to be really exciting. And, you know, just working, continue to build the brand up, doing way more video content now. So I have an interview with Tyra Montgomery, as Michael said. I also did a video with Easton Freeze at A to Z Sports about the upcoming Titan season. So make sure you go check that out. And thank you guys for having me back on. It's been way too long. I feel like it's been like 2 years since I've been on the show. So happy to be back on.
All right, we're glad to have you, man, and congratulations on all your success. But it's not a surprise to us. We knew you were a rising shooting star, and you're just living up to the potential that we knew that you were going to hit. So we look forward to everything that you're going to be putting out on SI Titans, especially with our good buddy as well, Bryce Lazenby. You know, we told him you're in good hands. So we're excited to see what the future holds for you. And believe me, we knew it was going to be bright. So congratulations to that. And Tyler, I mean, we kept our end of the bargain last week. As we said, we'd been busy. The weather had been pretty rough, but we finally got our CJ2K ALS Ice Bucket Challenge out of the way. And of course, we've sent our donations as well. So we're very grateful that Gary Bailey asked us to do the challenge, and we delivered as always.
That we did. And, you know, I'll just say Tennessee heat right now, not the best idea to try and do it middle of the day. I had to go back and redo mine, but it was worth it. And you know what? The ice water feels good on these hot days. So, and for a good cause, obviously.
Absolutely. And of course, nothing I really don't want to do again, especially when you're in that heat, because that hits like a freight train. So I'm glad the cause that we did it for, but I just don't like the feeling of. Well, all right, everybody. The most underrated Tennessee Titan can be in any word or any description, a debate, as we want to put it. But the three of us have come up with the guy that we feel is one of the most underrated Tennessee Titans of all time. Let's jump into segment number 2 and discuss. So, of course, it's definitely a train of thought. When you think Tennessee Titans, you always go to your go-to guys, your Steve McNairs, your Frank Wychecks, your Eddie Georges, your Derrick Henrys, your Chris Johnsons. It goes on and on. But we always seem to forget the guy that was a difference maker, put his hard hat on, brought his lunch pail, came to work every day. Maybe he wasn't always appreciated the way he needed to be, but he was a massive piece of the puzzle in helping the Titans be successful in any decade that they were in, especially during their duration in Nashville. So, Sharm, you being our guest, we definitely feel that would be amiss to not ask you, who do you feel is the most underrated Tennessee Titan of all time? And we shall sit and listen.
I don't know if my guy's the most underrated Titan of all time, but I feel like Tajay Sharp, when he was on the Titans, did not get as much respect as he should have. I feel like whenever the Titans needed a big play during those, 2017, 2018, 2016 seasons, Tajay Sharp would just come out of nowhere and make a play. I know my favorite memory of Tajay Sharp is when he caught a touchdown against the Eagles. The Titans were down big against the Eagles, and he caught a touchdown to get the team going. And that was the game where Mariota threw the OT touchdown to Corey Davis to win the game. And Tajay Sharp got that rally started. And that's a core memory for me as a younger Titans fan. So I'd go with Tajay Sharp. And then I also want to add a underrated Titans player from this year's team, this upcoming team. And that's Jalen Harrell. I feel like nobody's talking about Jalen Harrell. Jalen Harrell was quietly one of the best defensive players on the Titans towards the end of last year. I think he had a sack or half a sack in each of the last 4 or 5 games. I'm expecting big things from Jalen Harrell this year. He's going to have a rotational role, I hope, and I'm hoping to see big things from him.
So we'll circle back to Sharp, but I definitely want to hit on Harold because I thought that was a good reach too. So you're keeping that in your back pocket, and I don't blame you. That was a good one. So for Sharp, I mean, what do you feel just set him apart from other wide receivers? I mean, he teetered on that line of like, really good and just average. But what made him a difference maker, in your opinion?
As I said, I feel like whenever the Titans needed a big play, whenever Marcus Mariota just needed to get out of like a little slump that he had, I feel like Tajay Sharp was just always there. Third down, when they need a touchdown, third and goal. I just always felt like Tajay Sharp's always open. He's always making plays. And, he wasn't the most productive player. I think he was only like 4 years he was here. So he wasn't like an earth-shattering player. But when I think of someone who doesn't really get talked about as much, it's Tajay Sharp. He was always there to make the big play. And I think that's what separated him from, other depth wide receivers from that 2010s era.
So if I was to show a highlight of Tajay Sharp, what would be the quintessential highlight that you would go to show any Titans fan the body of his work?
I mean, I said the Eagles touchdown. They got the rally started. I think that's a really good play. The entire, I think it was 2018 where he had a ton of TDs, and that really showed that the type of player that he was, like a security blanket for Mariota. But if I had to pick one, it would be that Eagles touchdown that got a rally started, and it was one of the most exciting wins for the Titans in a while.
So I definitely got to ask this, because if you're going to rep your underdog, would you have been willing back then to buy a Tajay Sharp jersey?
If I had the money, yeah.
I love it. Bold take. So let's hit Jalen Harrell, because you brought him up as well, and I think that's a great talking point. And I do think that he definitely doesn't get the talking points that he deserves, but he's still coming up in a defense that I think is going to benefit him in 2026. So do you think that he might take that next step with Robert Saleh, who absolutely understands how to utilize all his defensive players?
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get the opportunity, because the Titans' edge rusher room is, it's not stacked, but there's a lot of quality depth pieces in there. But I mean, Jalen Harrell was really good at the end of last year. If he impresses in training camp, he's always had big preseasons. I could see him having, a key rotational role, and I feel like that fits him the best. And he could be a guy who maybe, comes out of the woodworks and has a 5.5 sack season, or even a 6 sack season. I think a lot of people are going to scoff at that, but I think it's a possibility. He showed at the end of last year that, hey, give me opportunities and I'll capitalize on them. So I hope he gets the opportunities. Obviously, he's not going to start, because Jermaine Johnson, Keldrick Falk, Femi Oladejo, like those guys are definitely over him on the depth chart. But if Jalen Harrell can find snaps, he will make plays. And we saw that last year, and I don't think it's going to change this year.
And Tyler, I see you foaming at the mouth a little bit, so I got to definitely let you jump in on the conversation as well. So we'll start with Harrell. I mean, obviously, Sharm brings up some good points. He's not going to be just a superstar, but I will say this. Knowing what Robert Saleh did with what he had last year, bringing guys in off the street and finding production out of them, Jalen Harrell's kind of an upgrade there.
Yeah, he is. And, I think because you hit on like Saleh, how he can maybe help Jalen Harrell. And, like Sharm said, Harrell's not going to be like your starter. He's going to be one of those rotational pieces. But, I forgot kind of just how much better he was at the end of the year last year. I mean, in the last 5 games, he had at least half a sack in every game. Like, he was getting back there, getting pressure. And, that's, as you mentioned, Robert Saleh. We know he's going to be rotating these guys in and out quite a bit. So if you already have that development kind of coming on from last year, and now you pair him up with Saleh, who knows how to get the best out of his defensive guys, especially his defensive front, like, Jalen Harrell's definitely a guy that can surprise some people. I'm not saying he's going to come out and have, 8 to 10 sacks, but, as a rotational piece, if he can come in and give me 5 or 6 sacks on the season, I'm happy with that.
Let's say in terms of Tajay Sharp, where would you rank him on underrated Titans?
Oh man, where would I rank him? I'd say, oh man, that's tough. See, I didn't know you was gonna have me doing blind rankings here, Michael. um, I'll go in like that 5 or 6 range, maybe.
I mean, if you're definitely feeling the 5 or 6 range, I can definitely just vouch for you that that seems fair. I mean, in terms of just talent and just playmaking ability, he was definitely one of those guys that was able to just step up and make a play when you needed it the most. But it was always kind of just, you always wondered what if he could just really just take it to the next level. And I definitely felt like he had it, but it just, once again, just poor coaching and just lackluster development. I won't say poor development because something was there. It just never elevated to where you wanted it. Well, all right, Tyler, you are up next. So you definitely had a lot of interesting choices, especially you were worried most of the week that one of us was going to take one of your choices because that seems to be a theme going on here. But I promise you, it didn't happen. We were able to come to agreement on finding the right guy for each person. So, Tyler, you chose an interesting Titan here, and you went with Bo Scaife. So please explain.
Yeah, went with Bo Scaife. I mean, for me, when I was kind of thinking back to Titans that were maybe underrated or you don't necessarily think of all the time. I mean, let's be honest. When you hear like Titans tight ends, your mind immediately goes to like Frank Wycheck, Delaney Walker. Obviously now, getting to these new teams, when you hear tight ends being talked about, even though they're still cutting their own teeth, you think of like Chig and Gunnar Helm, like you think of those guys. But Scaife is a guy that I feel like can get lost in the mix, and kind of like Sharm said with Tajay Sharp, he's not a guy that I feel like is like the most underrated Titan ever, but he was a guy that was overall pretty consistent throughout his career with the Titans. He was usually going to get you anywhere from 300 to 500 yards on the year, a couple of touchdowns thrown in there. But the biggest thing was he was going to be that safety blanket and that chain mover for the team. And that can get overlooked sometimes because, especially you get to these third down situations, you're needing to keep the drive alive. And Scaife was a guy that was good at being a reliable target on those third downs and moving the chains.
So the quintessential play of Bo Scaife, if you were to show any Tennessee Titan fan why you felt he was one of the greatest underrated Titans, what play would that be?
I was going back and forth on this because I thought you might ask about a play, and I almost wanted to try and cheat the system a little bit and not really say a play, but like a game for him. But if you're going to make me do just a play, I'm going to say probably, and I think this was in 2008 against the Chiefs, the 75-yard touchdown where it was just a short pass that he caught, and he just split the defense and outran everyone. And, you got to see his athleticism on that play, and, obviously, I think that was a career-long touchdown for him. So that would be the one that I'd go with.
So, I mean, in retrospect, I definitely felt Bo Scaife was especially one of those guys. He just never developed past what you would have expected him to. I felt that the ceiling could have been a lot more higher. But, for a team that just didn't throw the ball that much, it just didn't seem like it was going to happen. And unfortunately, every opportunity that he got, it almost seemed like a surprise. So, I mean, am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, especially when you look at it, like I said, like 2008, was his best season as far as receiving wise, and he had 84 targets that year, but most of the time his target range was like in the 50 targets per season. So, when you're not necessarily throwing the ball just a ton, not getting as many opportunities, like you said, some kind of untapped potential there, but ultimately, coming back to the reason why I picked him was just because he was that guy that could be a reliable target when they did go to him.
Sharm, I'll let you have your take on it. I mean, do you think Boscave is one of the most underrated Titans?
Yeah, Boscave's a little bit before my time, but from what I have watched of him and seen of him, is he kind of was like Tajay Sharp. He just did it for longer and obviously different position, but he was consistently had, as Tyler said, the 300 to 500 yards and would come up and make a play here and there. So I think he's very similar to Tajay Sharp, and yeah, I think he for his time was probably well ahead of his time, honestly. So definitely think he was pretty underrated.
And to finish it off, Tyler, where would you rank him?
Man, you gonna make me do this again?
I'm making you work today, man. We're getting ready for the regular season. I'm getting you to work.
All right. You know what? I'll go. I'm gonna put Sharp at 6 and then Scaife at 5. I feel like they're kind of, just what they kind of brought to the table. You could argue that interchangeable there, but that's where I'll go with them.
Okay. And I guess to finish it up on my side, there was a lot of guys that I had to really just kind of kick the tires on, especially just with underrated. I mean, I really wanted to go Carl Klug, but I mean, it was going to be too obvious since I put him on the banner, and it's not how I roll, because I don't want to just throw an obvious one out there. And I like Carl Klug. I felt he was just really one of the underrated guys on a defensive line that was able to just really just surprise you with just the output that he put. But given the way just things have kind of played out the last month, and I really feel that this player that I'm choosing was a big reason for the success of the late aughts and early tens, because Chris Johnson was able to get loose and have his 2,000-yard season. So for this, give me Big Country. I love an offensive lineman. They're near and dear to my heart. But this dude, 116 games played and started, and unfortunately, he only got a second team All-Pro in 2008. But just the sheer force and just way he was able to bully guys and even throw some pancakes in, this dude was a problem. And a big reason why Chris Johnson was able to hit a lot of open holes. So, Tyler, I'll let you have your discussion points.
Yeah, I mean, that's a solid pick for sure. I didn't realize that all he ever had was a second team All-Pro. And, thinking back, this was, he kind of played in a time where I wasn't necessarily watching or paying as close attention to offensive linemen. Like now I dial in a little bit more. I kind of pay attention to them a little bit more. So look, at least I'm being honest, Michael. I'm, you got
to take care of your big guys. Your big guys take care of you. So it's a round the world situation.
But yeah, I think this is a solid pick, and I think even more so considering, the accolade that you threw out there. All he ever had was a second team All-Pro, and it was on a year where he was opening up these holes for Chris Johnson, and so definitely underrated on that aspect.
Sharma, I'll let you have your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, when I was actually looking, David Stewart came to mind, and also another one was Nate Davis. He was great during Derrick Henry's 2,000-yard season. I looked at those two, but I wanted to really go like really underrated because obviously those two are like David Stewart and Nate Davis were like starters for a number of years. So, but I think it's a great choice. I mean, I thought he would be a perennial Pro Bowler, someone who would have all these accolades. Only one second team All Pro is pretty disrespectful. So that is a really good pick.
I think all of our picks were good picks. I would absolutely say these are quintessential underrated Titans. They fit every aspect of what you're looking for. And a guy that puts on their hard hat, gets the lunch pail, goes to work. They're not looking for rewards. They're not looking for accolades. They do the job because they're good teammates. They're good workers. And they express the spirit of what it is to truly be a professional athlete.
Where are you ranking him at, Michael?
Big country's got a big special place in my heart. So he's not number 1, but I'm going to give him number 4.
All right.
Because I definitely feel he was just one of those gems that just popped out there. And him and Michael Ruse just on the tackle spots. Oof, that was a nasty combination. If you're a defensive line, that definitely gave you some nightmares preparing for those dudes. But Stewart was my guy. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get ready to close up shop with a final segment. When we come back, Will got a great talking point, but especially we're going to hit home on should they have done better. Catch a break, and we'll be right back.
You're watching The Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Tyler Staggs.
The Power Hour is on the air. Live streaming to you on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this fine Monday evening. Guys, you showed up, you showed out, you put in the effort, you showed us views, you gave us likes, you gave us shares, you gave us everything you could give. And we can't do the show without you because you make the show go, as always. So before we hit the last segment, round of applause to you. And don't forget, if you love the show, help it grow. Follow us on all our social media platforms at the Titan Upload Network and at the Power Hour 615. It's going to be busy season, and the getting's getting good. So you don't want to miss out. And of course, a special shout out to our good buddy SHARM Sports. SHARM, once again, want to give you a chance to give a shout out to the audience and where they can find all your great, amazing content that's going to be coming down the pike very soon.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated Titans on SI, going to be doing a lot of work there. SHARM Sports on Twitter, SHARM Sports on YouTube, SHARMsports.com. And finally, man, football is back, so content's going to be coming at you guys, and let's get it.
We're going to be busy, so the getting's good, so y'all better load your plates up and fill your glasses. It's going to be a good time in 2026. All right, guys, we love you. We mean it. We're glad you showed up. We're sad you got to go. But you can't stay here, but we got one more to go. Hit the damn theme music.
Closing time. Good night, losers.
So it's been announced that Chris Johnson, rightfully and deservedly so, will be entering the Titans Ring of Honor on kickoff week when the Titans face the Jets, September 13th. And this was absolutely the right decision, but it also can come with some scrutiny. And I mean, Sharm, I'll start with you. While we're not trying to down the mood or take away from the specialness and the importance that this means to Titans fans all around the world, but I mean, you kind of feel like it didn't need to have to go down like this.
Yeah,
did the Titans make a bad decision on waiting too long to make this happen?
I mean, Chris Johnson's one of the most exciting players, if not the most exciting Tennessee Titans to ever live. And he was going to be in the Ring of Honor one day. I don't know why they waited so long. And as you said, it's just sad that, this news coming out kind of like made them think, oh, we have to do it now when they could have done it 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. So I do understand where fans are coming from that, but I'm just happy that's finally happening. You know, Chris Johnson deserves this so much. As I said, one of the greatest Titans of all time, arguably the most exciting Titan of all time. I don't know why they waited so long. Yes, they made a mistake waiting so long, but you know, finally it's happening. You know, I wish it would have been a few years ago, but you know, at least he'll be here to see it at least, so that'll be good.
And I mean, great points those are. And Tyler, I mean, the thing is, once again, I want to get your perspective as well. A to Z Sports brought this up in a conversation, and I felt it was a good conversation to have. The biggest thing, it's like the Titans kind of just felt like they were just strong armed into making this decision. And I say that lightly, especially with the fact of just the gravity of the situation. I'm not saying they did it just out of pity or anything, it was rightfully deserved. But it kind of felt like the narrative had to be moved because of a situation like this. And it's kind of upsetting that the fact that it's like it takes something like this for the Titans to move on.
Yeah, it's 100% upsetting. Like, you know, here's the good on the Titans for doing this, but it's like Sharm said, something that should have been done a couple of years ago. Like, you know, the question that rings in your mind is, why was this not done sooner? And you know, as bad as it is to say, like, you know, yeah, it's pretty much like they were strong armed into this because it's, oh man, this situation has come up. Like, you know, yeah, we were thinking about maybe eventually putting him in there, but now, you know, now we definitely need to. And it's like, come on, like, you should have already felt that, like, that you needed to. Like Sharm said, it one if not the most exciting Titans players of all time, like one of those guys where it's get the ball in his hands no matter where you're at on the field, and there's a good chance he's taking it for 6 just because he's going to make guys miss and he's so damn fast. And it was overdue. Again, I'm glad that they are doing it and they're not waiting even longer and then get to a point where CJ's not here to get that honor in person. But still, Titans, you could have done a little bit better.
And it all comes back to this with me. And it's from A to Z Sports bringing it up, and they make a great point here, and I'll piggyback on that. It shouldn't take a situation like this to move the needle when you knew it was the right thing to do in the first place. I don't want a player to have to come and enjoy their celebration because that a situation like this had to arise to make you move forward to do it. And I'm not trying to make light of it or make any situation out of it that doesn't need to be. It's rightfully deserved. I'm glad he's going to be there to enjoy it. It's his day. I hope we beat the crap out of the Jets, and I hope it's a fun day for everybody. But the Titans, to me, are really missing on this. There's still guys that aren't in the ring that should be. And it shouldn't have to take a situation like this for them to move on something. You know, we're still in discussion with Javon Curse and Keith Bullock and many other Titans that potentially could make it into the Ring of Honor. And it shouldn't be just to gauge perception of public opinion. Chris Johnson was rightfully deserved of this opportunity, regardless of his ALS diagnosis. The man was going to go there, but I wish the Titans would have acted sooner, like you both have brought up. And I just feel that's just a failure on that part. It can be rectified within future inductees, but I don't want it to come to this. You don't need to gauge perception. You don't have to move on a situation because it's bad. You should bring in your guys and put them there because they put in the effort that is rightfully deserved. And I hope in the new stadium, we're better with that going forward. because there's still guys that deserve to be in that ring, especially with the body of work that they put in throughout their career, rightfully so. So once again, to end on this, I'm happy he's included. I'm happy that this is going to be a day that I hope him and his family just cherish forever and that he'll be there to enjoy it. But please, Amy Adams Strunk and Titans front office, do better with this. I'm glad you made the right choice, but do better. And with that being said, we appreciate everybody joining us on the show tonight for the Power Hour. So thank you once again for joining us. And a special shout out one more time for you guys for showing up and showing out for us. Round of applause one more time for you. And don't forget to keep the thumbs up, the bell for notifications on the Titan Upload Network and at the Power Hour 615 so you can get all the great content you need, whether it be NFL or Tennessee Titans related. We will continue to give you the best we can always put out. And a special shout out one more time to SHARM Sports for joining us. We are not going to leave you in the dark, man. I promise you we're going to get you in on the regular season as well and get you on some breakdowns with some of these games, because I just can't have a man of your caliber and just not use you when we have you at our fingertips. So I will take the blame on that, but we are super happy that you joined us tonight.
Happy to be back, man. Always love the Titan Upload Network, and happy to always be on.
So one more time before we get out of here, let them know where to find all your great content at and what you got coming down the pikes at Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, so Titans on Sports Illustrated, all year long content on there. SharmSports.com, Sharm Sports on YouTube, Sharm Sports on X. Content is going to be pumping out here in the next 2 weeks of training camp, so let's get ready for it.
We look forward to it, man, and you're going to put out some great stuff. Check it out. He's going to really put in some hard work like he always has. So that's nothing new that we've seen. So Tyler, final thought of the show. Hit me with you.
Yeah, I think you actually had the perfect final thought earlier. So I just wanted to reiterate that for the Titans. Do better with the Ring of Honor stuff. Don't wait until it's a moment where it feels like it's kind of forced for these guys that definitely 100% deserve to already be in there.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So with that, we will call it a night. We appreciate everybody joining us on the Power Hour, and special thanks once again to SHARM Sports for joining us. We'll see you next Monday. Maybe we'll have some more surprises up our sleeves. Who knows? We like keeping you on your toes. But regardless, we got football to talk about in a couple days, and the getting's good. So thank you again, once again, for watching the show. We are out of here. So a special thanks again to SHARM Sports, and for Tyler Staggs, I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. And as always, take care and tighten up.
Tighten up.
You're watching the Titan Upload Network.